What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Bettor Sports Show. I'm Ryan. I'm here with Randy. Randy, how you doing tonight, my friend?
What's going on, Ryan? Good to be back as always, man.
It's always good to be back here on this wonderful day. The kids are getting out of school. It's the summertime. You can hear the pop punk music in the air. So that means the NBA Finals are on, and we're recording this episode right now on the eve of Game 3. This is do or die. Are the Mavericks going to go down 0-3? Is it all going to fall apart? Will the earth be round instead of flat for Kyrie? Is all that shit going to fall apart? Or will they battle back, take it at home, and make it a series, right? Will Luka whip those Mavs role players into shape, get them to actually make those corner threes, those open looks? Can they get the lob going with Porzingis out? I'm very excited. We're going to watch that after this game. And just to open with my initial thoughts, as you all know, Tingus Pingus, Porzingis himself, he is done for this game. He is out, and I believe they took the decision to play out of his hands. They gave it to the medical staff, and he was held out. That being said, I still think that the Celtics are far and away the favorites here. I bet them for this game, so that's either going to age very well or very poorly. And I think Derek White will get increased looks tonight, and I think he's going to drown them.
I agree. Al Horford should also get some additional looks with Porzingis being ruled out. Unfortunate. I feel like he was going to cook for the rest of this series too. Would have loved to see Tingus Pingus do the damn thing. Because again, to me, he's always going to be a slight representative of New York. Fun fact, that was the only Knicks jersey I've bought in the past decade. I don't have it anymore, but I was a fan of him when he was on the Knicks. Definitely was rooting for him to, again, show out a little bit in the series, so that's unfortunate. The big question is, will Kyrie have any type of bounce back at all in this series? It'd be interesting to see if he could even hit the 25 mark tonight. Luke is playing out there hurt. Mavericks are overall devastated. If they win anything in this series, I expect them to win the first game at home tonight. We will see about that. But yeah, at this point, it's really looking like Celtics in 4 or 5.
The Mavericks role players need to take a serious step forward if they're going to win this series, or at very least make it competitive. We saw in previous series, either A, against Oklahoma City, the OKC role players just completely fell apart, and the Mavs guys stepped up to an extent. And then against the Wolves, the Mavericks role players really stepped up. I watched the majority of that series. Luka and Kyrie were cooking in the fourth quarter, but between the first and the fourth, they had the PJ Washingtons, the Derrick Jones Jr.'s. Those guys were hitting those threes. They were getting back in transition, playing some defense. That just hasn't been the case this series. Game 2, PJ Washington nailed a running three, right? 2 minutes into the game. He finished 1 of 5. He didn't hit another one the rest of the game. That's just, quite frankly, unacceptable on this stage, right? He was acquired to be that third scoring option to take the pressure off Luka and Kyrie during some of those rest minutes, and unfortunately, he has not shown up yet. So that, to me, is what this comes down to. If they're going to be competitive at all, those guys have to show up because the Celtics are ridiculously deep. Like I said, White, Horford, Brown, and Tatum as your 1-2 punch. That's just absurd. And they can really control the games going forward. So that, to me, is what I'm looking for. Like the people on your commute today, you could have put them on the Mavericks bench, and these last few games, there wouldn't have been much of a fucking difference. So hopefully today that changes.
Always love to hear the hearty dialogue from a diehard Boston fan. But with that being said, now that you mentioned with how deep they are, it's very interesting to see the likely MVP candidates at the end of this series. We were talking a little bit before the show. You mentioned, the Tatum slander. Yeah, it still is not old. Best record in the NBA to finish the regular season. And they're on the doorstep of a sweep against the Mavericks. And while he still has the best odds for the Finals MVP right now, I'm looking at plus 140 as of 7:13 p.m., 45 minutes before Game 3. Drew Holiday has been showing out absolutely spectacular, but Jaylen Brown as well, especially from Game 1. Jaylen Brown's currently listed at a plus 155, Drew Holiday at a plus 600. I don't know what it is about that plus 600 number. It looked great a couple weeks ago when we had our future with the Mavs to win the finals. It hasn't aged great now, but and again though, you're actually getting your full value on that for sure at plus 600 because even right now, if you were to bet on the series to finish and the Mavs to win at this point, you're only getting plus 540 right now. So if you jumped on it a couple weeks ago, somehow their odds are slightly better now than they were 2 weeks ago, which is the math doesn't actually math there, but very interesting to see when the Celtics pull away with this. If somehow is Tatum snubbed from a pretty impressive year overall, does Brown or Holiday skip him for the MVP?
I think due to the discourse around it, the fact that it's voted on by media members, and Jaylen Brown has just been very good these last few games. Drew Holiday has been clutch as well. I really do think they've leapfrogged him in the voting because Tatum, to his credit, he's not necessarily playing awful. He's still getting penetration, kicking the shot out. He's playing excellent on defense. But the narrative's the narrative. When you have a number one guy on your team, you need to shoot better than he's shot so far. Perhaps that changes tonight. We see a classic Tatum like 30 bomb or 40 bomb where he fucks around for the first 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter, he just goes off. And that. A quick aside as well. So for MVP, I would give it to Brown. We were talking before the show, you liked Holiday. If you were someone like us, we love the Mavericks at plus 600 a few weeks ago. If you were someone who liked the Mavericks coming into this series, but the number was a little low for you, or you liked Luka MVP, if there was ever a time to bet that in terms of value, it would be now.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're going to enter the market, you enter it now. Now that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Likely the Celtics could just, go up 3-0 tonight and all that goes down the drain. But if you see the value, now is the time to pull the trigger as opposed to, beforehand.
I agree. Excellent read. And pretty much, yeah, to cap what I was saying before as well about that plus 600 number that that's what we were pulled into the future bet from a couple weeks ago. Plus 600 on a Drew Holiday MVP right now. Again, would I put a full unit on that? No, but a quarter unit sprinkle or on that, or again, the somehow the Mavericks come on top on this series, you could still get that line at plus 540. Definitely not a bad return for a quarter unit sprinkle there if you were interested in a finals bet. But that's all I see gambling wise on the finals right now. It seems pretty one way, and you're not going to get great value out of it.
That, and a quick aside just on value. If you see a bet with value, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means you think the odds of it happening are better than the price the sportsbooks are giving you. All right, there are no guarantees in this world other than death and taxes, and I try to cheat on my taxes as much as I can. I don't know about you. But on top of that, I could go on a whole fucking rant about that, but that's a separate podcast entirely. Anyway, value does not guarantee that your bet has a better winning percentage. It just means it's considered to be plus EV, expected value, to take that position in the market, right? So if it does happen, or at the very least, it could happen, and you're set up to profit very well if it does happen in terms of beating the odds. But like I said, no guarantees. That's just how this works. As we saw, games 1 and 2, they were very, I don't want to say fully lopsided, but the Celtics were in control. We could just see the Celtics control this tonight. We'll see.
Should be hopefully more exciting than the first 2 games. I don't want to be a direct misquote, but again, I believe the viewership also was down from these finals. I think it's as low as it's been since I think like 2016 or 2017, which is unfortunate because this looked like an amazing series to watch going into it. I think it's more just based on the fact I don't think it's so much Boston hate or anything like that or a disinterest to watching them. It's just it seems so obvious that they're going to pull away with it. People, if anything, they're just going to check their phone, check the score, and be like, "Yep, Celtics up 20, checks out."
And on top of that, a lot of people have cut cable or they've cut some part of that from their TV. So they're streaming the game, illegally streaming the game or something of that nature. Also, just a quick aside here, on the East Coast, these games are starting at like 8:30, even 8:45 in some cases. I'm going to go on a slight rant here, for all the kids out there. I remember 2011, I was in middle school and my Boston Bruins were in the Stanley Cup Finals. And I was very thankful that those games, hockey games, started at like 7. Right? Hockey finals generally start around 7, 8. So if you're a younger kid, you got to be up for school in the morning. You're in one of those school districts where they're like, fuck you, parents. You get those little bastards out to the bus stop at 6 o'clock. And, whatever happens, happens. If it's something like that and you're going to have to be up late and, you don't want to be drunk the next day, I was appreciative of the fact that they started at a normal time. If you're like a young kid staying up late watching these games. Obviously, it's the summer, but that's good. But man, you're going to be junk the next day trying to sit there in like second period English class. Your teacher's ranting about Tom Sawyer. Why did he paint the fence white? What does it mean?
I'll be honest with you. MLB postseason, just a quick pivot to that, since you brought up again just times for game start. It gets pretty brutal. After the first round, some of these game start times are 8:30, 9, and I don't care how much the pitch clock has advanced the game along a little bit. This is postseason ball. There's going to be more pitching changes. There's going to be more mound visits. There's going to be more timeouts, as much as the teams could take. It's a 3-hour game starting at 9 o'clock, and it starts to. And again, if it's a series that goes to 7, and baseball, it's not as spread out as some of these the final series have been, where they get like a 2-day cushion. Like these are back to back to back days sometimes, and I mean, again, watching a game. Let alone the UFC cards, you know what I mean? They go 7-8 hours sometimes, which is almost nearly unbearable for me. I'm very selective with the fights that I watch for that reason, because I am checked out after hour 4 of watching fights. But yeah, I wish they started the finals a little bit earlier, maybe like 6:30, even 7 latest. I feel like the 8 o'clock start times for a lot of these like nationally televised games is kind of ridiculous. Even for adults, let alone, talking about like college kids or anything like that. Man, as an adult, like, geez, you know what I mean? I'm trying to keep my sleep schedule in check. Being up watching a game at 11:30 midnight, even if you got money on it, is not it.
And not only that, many a times, if you're staying up late, your team wins. Well, okay, you can get up the next morning. You stay up late to watch your team lose. Man, that's a kick in the balls.
Yeah.
That is a huge kick in the balls. So you have to take that into account as well. You can have some pretty unhappy campers in the morning. And like you said, you're an adult. There are people out there, they got to be up at like fucking 5:30, 6 o'clock to commute out for work. And I don't know, man.
That's
I think
brutal.
the NBA got a little greedy, because the reason this is because they're staggering it. So if it's 8:30 roughly on the East Coast, 7:30 Central, and yeah, fuck that flight, get him out of here.
It's pissing me off.
On the West Coast, that'll be late enough that people will be somewhat out of work, or at least starting their commute home, so they'll get a bit of the West Coast viewership as well, at least in theory. So that's why it's staggered so heavily in this way, especially since they don't have one of those West Coast powerhouse teams left, right? They don't have the Warriors, infinite money glitch anymore. They don't have the Lakers holding anything. And so, that if you're ever wondering why they get greedy and do this, that's why. It's never enough money. Bastards. And speaking of bastards, let's talk about the Stanley Cup Finals, because we have guys being bastards on both sides of that coin. The Panthers are known for their grit, their abrasiveness. Game 1, they got outshot and outplayed, but Sergei Bobrovsky absolutely stood on his head. He stole that like Nicolas Cage stole the Declaration of Independence, right? That game was all his. Game 2, complete and total masterclass from Paul Maurice and the Panthers. They shut down Edmonton's vaunted offense completely. That's probably the best forecheck I've seen in this generation of hockey, is what the Panthers do. I've talked about it on the show before. Generally, when you forecheck that aggressively, or you have that layers of structured defense, you sacrifice a bit of offense. Nope. These guys are always in the right place at the right time to counterattack, so they have the offense and the defense figured out. Really, it's a joy to watch. And it's getting fucking nasty out there. You had the collision with Lucitarian, right? Knee on knee. You had other things as well. Completely kinged by Draisaitl going at Sasha Barkov and knocking him out of the game. Now, Barkov may play game 3, he may not, but that's the type of hit that can really pour gasoline on the fire of a series. Draisaitl will not be suspended. To get suspended in the Stanley Cup Finals as a superstar, you have to be a real fuck up. Like, they do not suspend these guys if they're good. If it was like a bottom 6 player or a bottom 4 defenseman, they would have suspended him. But a top 6 guy and it's fucking Leon Draisaitl, yeah, no, not going to happen. So I'm very curious to see how the Panthers respond to that, if they respond at all. Likewise, if Barkov can't play game 3 in Edmonton, that is Edmonton's push to salvage their legacy, right? Connor McDavid is the chosen one. He's probably the best player in hockey. I haven't really seen any type of debate against that, except for perhaps McKinnon at his peak right now could maybe give him a run. But this is McDavid's legacy, right? He was brought in to be the guy to bring the cup back to Edmonton after that long drought. He has his running mate in Draisaitl, but 5-on-5, they just haven't been good enough, and they don't have an answer for what the Panthers do. I really think this hit will either be one of two things. It'll be the turning point. This is going to sound really fucked up to say, so just bear with me. The Oilers pushing back against that Panthers gritty, abrasive style, playing like that themselves, for better or worse, playing a little dirty. Will they claw themselves back into it? Or will the Panthers see their guy, their captain, get taken out and be like, no, 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 fuck this. This is our cup. We're up 2-0 already. Foot on the throat. It's coming back to Florida. Very curious for me to see. Oh, and also, here's a nice, cool fact that you haven't seen fucking plastered all around sports media incessantly for the past week. Jason Tatum and Matthew Tkachuk went to the same high school together. So, the long-lost friends, maybe they'll both win a championship.
Man, that's a small world after all. And those are two last names that you don't think end up going in the same area. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I think it's, they both got recruited early for sports. I think it was one of those situations.
Wow.
Yep.
Small
Tatum.
world.
Small world.
So, UFC updates. Apparently, we have more cryptic messages. I think the latest update was a little bit in the evening, about 3-4 p.m. today. Ariel Helwani insists that the fight is in jeopardy. However, Michael Chandler posts early this morning, the hashtag is back, UFC 303. Yeah. So who the fuck knows what's going on here? But what the fuck? Can you break it down for me? Why that Cannonier fight comes to a stoppage on the feet while his hands are up, actively defending himself, never knocked down. What are we doing? Every single week.
Randy, don't worry. I got this. So between rounds, Jason Herzog was checking his phone. He was like, all right, okay, we need round 4. Okay, thanks, DraftKings. I got you. He hung up. He saw Cannonier get wobbled, and he decided to wave the fight off. He was like, yep, next UFC card in France, I'm getting a nice bonus to ref that bad boy. But to be serious, we've seen serious inconsistencies with the officiating and the judging. This is just another layer on top of that.
Every week, brother, though, it's of utmost, you would have to be crazy to not even consider it right now. Like, in my opinion, I can't find myself to bet on MMA. I absolutely cannot, because I have to be right. Not only am I picking the fight, but I have to make sure I'm more right than all 3 judges, and the ref ain't gonna fuck.
And the ref ain't
and these fighters, literally, I mean, your debut in the UFC, you should get 4 wins. You should get 4 wins, 1 for each judge and 1 for the ref. These poor fucking guys, man. I mean, again, in Cannonier, I believe that's the 2nd straight loss now. That changes the landscape of divisions, guys' careers, their livelihood. Their livelihood depends on these people, and we don't really see it too much in other sports, like with the direct outcome. We could argue about fishy fouls in football, Angel Hernandez type shit in baseball, but I mean, this is where guys are really putting their life on the line. At some point, the UFC has to, well, not the UFC, the fighters themselves have to establish some type of union that we have in all these other sports, like the NFLPA. Baseball has theirs, the NHL has theirs, and that's how the sport ends up moving forward. And these guys, again, they somewhat get taken care of. I mean, guys in the NFL, they don't get taken care of after football very much at all. But I mean, again, if you're a fighter in 2024 and you're seeing what's happened on the highest level, which is the UFC is considered by pretty much just about everybody the highest level that a combat sport athlete could strive to get to. And it's fuckery, not even just on prelims, it's fuckery on the main card. It's fuckery here, it's fuckery there. I can't take it. But, and with that being said, what is going on in boxing? Apparently, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney still haven't been paid, either of them, for that fight. Mm-hmm. So, in the world of combat sports, it's almost pulling me completely out temporarily. I don't know if we need an actual blackout in the sport to get some of these issues resolved, but these commissions need to be put upside down, and there needs to be all sorts of new roles and checks and balances all over the place, or else we really might have to start considering the downfall of this sport, because these guys aren't even getting paid a fraction of what they deserve outside of the BKFC. They pay, and they pay handsomely. Outside of the BKFC, though, and you're a hopeful up and comer, hats off to you, man. That's good luck. You got your work cut out for you, not just in your fights, but with everything else. And no sponsorships. I could go on forever. It's such a shit show. But just wanted to throw that out there for the UFC update of the week. Nothing great as usual. Just very disappointing. That's the fact of the matter and the situation with the UFC right now.
Yep, combat sports have a sordid history when it comes to corruption, underhanded dealings, and the like. So anytime you see these things, you're not surprised, but you're extremely disappointed. The PFL bought Bellator and then just told all the Bellator guys, fuck you, stay home. We're not paying those contracts because they can't afford to do so. On top of that, in the opening fight of Cannonier versus Imavov, right? You ready for this? We talk on the show about how MMA has closed subjective scoring, while all other sports, at least most other sports, have open objective scoring. And what I mean by that, in the NBA, a 3 will always be a 3. But in the MMA world, all right, some guy lands a takedown. He has a little bit of control time. Did they score it? Did they not score it?
Right.
One fighter lands a good amount of punches, but another fighter lands a big power punch to end the round. Is it damage? Is it volume? That's subjective to the judges watching the fight. Could you imagine if when Scott Foster was reffing, well, he's still reffing, but at the height of his shenanigans in his heyday, he could just do the shit that you see in MMA with the refs and the judges? Could you imagine somebody scoring a touchdown in the NFL and they cut to the sideline? All right, does Ed Hockley see that as 5 points or 6 points? It would never happen. It's absurd to say, but those are some of the situations that we deal with. And then just to wrap up this point, the opening fight, I was checking this, right? The opening fight of that card, Dos Santos versus Tomar, had dueling 30-27s. So one judge had all 3 rounds for one girl, and another judge had all 3 rounds for the other. One of them was Sal D'Amato. And that should never happen logically in a split decision.
Absolutely not.
I had Dos Santos winning back 2-1. They gave it to Tomar. I don't know, man. I don't know. There was some other fuckery on this card as well. Yeah, Gomes won the split decision over Mora. I thought she won that pretty definitively. But again, what do you score? Do you score Mora's control time?
And that's what it is, though. And again, right? Like, I mean, we could get into it. I mean, we could bullet point this. We could break out a PowerPoint. We could fix this damn thing in an hour because it's so obnoxiously bad. Again, there's no set criteria. Everybody kind of makes their own criteria, and it's brain rot trying to figure it out. And again, it's kind of breathtaking that this is the height of the sport right now. I mean, has it come a long way in 2 decades? Yeah, but this ain't it for 2024, man. Sucks to see it.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. And then hopefully things get better. I'll be honest, I don't think we ever see a fighters union. Multiple fighters have tried to unionize at certain points. It always gets squashed by the top due to, like, the nature of the backstage dealings. All for one, one for all. It doesn't really exist. It's just all for one. You get that extra bonus. Suddenly you don't want to unionize. And hopefully we see something equivalent to the Ali Act in MMA, where the guys are at least getting paid more. I don't know if they'll ever be paid fairly, but I'd like to see them at least get paid more. You know what I'm saying? Like those awful contracts, 12 to win, 12 to show. That is fucking brutal.
Yeah.
And
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just to wrap up on that, I remember the fucking epidemic where fighters would shout out skinny bets in the octagon after winning. Do you remember that?
No.
There was an Instagram user who was big in the betting space, and he sold picks, and he would pay UFC fighters to say in their post-fight interview, shout out to my boy Skinny Bets on Instagram. Go check him out. He'll make you a lot of money. And if he was right, you would see that like roughly 4 to 5 times a card. And that was just so embarrassing and degrading. that these professional athletes who are like top 10, top 15 in their division, top 5 even sometimes, have to say that because they need the extra fucking coin. Because like you said, they can't take the sponsorships anymore. The contracts are shit. And it's overall just an unfortunate situation. I think they may have banned it because it's completely gone away.
Probably.
So they can't do it anymore. Yeah.
Probably. I wouldn't doubt it. Anything to take money out of their pocket, put it in theirs.
But baseball's still on. You got some baseball for us, Randy?
So MLB, to wrap up pretty much really quick, Yankees still on fire, absolutely torching the Royals series. Braves, one of the most inflated lines in baseball. They can't seem to overall get it together, but they are still consistently listed on favorites, just about anybody they play in any circumstance. So if you're an MLB bettor, definitely watch yourself some Braves lines and where it looks appropriate to fade. Orioles still blasting forward the AL East and is just looking like an absolute powerhouse. The Yankees will be challenged to the end of the season right now, next to Baltimore. Over in the National League, the Phillies, somehow the Phillies and the Yankees actually probably have the best value in baseball right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're both so far ahead and just about or leading in every offensive statistic. And their lines to start the day are pretty fair just about every day. Even tonight, again, they just smoked the Royals back-to-back games and they're minus 162 tonight. I didn't see what the line was to open up for the Phillies tonight, but I believe it was split. I want to say they were minus 120. They're already up 2-0 in the second inning right now. So the landscape of baseball hasn't changed too much. Paul Skeens is probably one of the most entertaining guys for me to watch right now. That was an excellent game Tuesday night between the Pirates and the Cardinals. Almost a no-hitter for the Cardinals through 7 innings. Skeens pitched a shutout. He got a standing ovation from the St. Louis crowd, which is kind of crazy. And then other than that, the Tigers are a really weird team. If you're looking for an outlier team right now to keep your eye on, Detroit looks very dangerous, very dangerous. They're about as 500 as a team comes, but they are staying in a lot of games, and the Guardians, of course, are crushing it still as well. So the landscape hasn't changed too much. Me personally, betting-wise, I've pivoted from strikeouts to alternate overs for the game just because we're in the middle of the season. Batters are in the rhythm now, and we should have a pretty good feel on who's consistent and who's not. So for me, again, just finding the bad matchups. Gave out a couple over the past few days. Really, again, just looking at those bottom 7, bottom 8 teams, and when they're facing the top 8 team, looking at either that first 5-inning total for runs or the whole game. It's kind of incredible the value you get for a team to score over 5.5. You're getting underdog odds for it. Today, an absolute doozy. The Twins scored 17. Yes, that's 2 touchdowns and a field goal against the Rockies. We got plus 142 odds on the over 5.5 there. So again, the Rockies, the script's out on them. They're very similar to the White Sox right now. They're just going to get starched on a regular basis. The A's, they're going to give up a lot of runs. They had a very close game today, but then they lost to walk-off in the bottom of the 9th. So nothing too crazy or complicated on my end, to where I've been successful on my MLB sports betting lately. It's really, again, just finding the matchup with the worst teams in the league, really, and seeing the opportunity with who's on the mound for the better team of the night and is their offense going right now? Because, again, to get underdog odds on a team, an MLB to score 5 runs is so run-of-the-mill right now. Teams are regularly scoring 7, 8 plus. So you still have a bit of a safety net around the 4.5, 5.5 line. But just like they did with the strikeout props, forewarning, you probably have about a 2-week spot to jump on this until these lines get super sharp and everything's going to probably go up about a 50-point swing the wrong way on these prop bets. But That's all I got for MLB. Yeah, not much has changed, but just alternate run totals look great right
And building on his last point there, when the NBA Finals and the NHL Stanley Cup ends, MLB will become the last of the four major sports you have to bet on until college football starts back up in August. And like you said, when that happens, those lines become much sharper. There's going to be much more money entering into those markets. The sharps are betting it, the wise guys, the guys with the algorithms, they're all going to be coalescing on baseball. And it's going to change the entire market. So those lines are going to get sharper. The favorites are going to get a little juicier, in my opinion. I think the line's going to get shaded more towards those Phillies, Yankees, Dodgers, another one. So it may be more beneficial to try to find the lesser known teams, the small market teams, or at least teams that aren't in those quote unquote premier markets that you see on like SportsCenter, ESPN every day. The kids still watch SportsCenter? I don't know. I used to wake up and watch that every day in middle school. I don't know if that's a thing anymore.
now. That's my morning routine, man, every day.
Every day, never changes, baby. A team like the Royals, even though they're losing pretty handedly to the Yankees in this series, the Royals have been excellent as underdogs for bettors this year. They've come up. The Tigers, like you mentioned, the Guardians. I think the fucking Orioles somehow still are undervalued. I don't know how that is.
I agree. I want to say it's their pitching rotation, their relief pitching can be improved. I feel like they've struggled a bit in the second half of games, but their starting rotation is great. I feel like they have some of the best. It's kind of crazy. The three best teams in baseball kind of have the best lines still.
I know, right? Like I saw them against the Rays and against the Braves.
Mhm.
They were underdogs against the Braves at home, and the Braves this year, I think, at least anecdotally, I've heard many bettors say when you lay the juice on these guys, they're just not getting back what you showed in terms of performance. Orioles is dogs at home. On the road against the Rays, they're only like minus 150. I don't know, man. Perhaps as we get more into the summer, we're going to see minus 175. Even money at home against the good teams. So maybe that'll change. And of course, when the deadline comes, you'll see these teams load up that are in contention. Long season. So
very long.
And I talked about this. This goes for all of you. You're betting at work. You're betting on summer vacation. You motherfuckers, I know you're betting underage with like a Bovada or like a Venmo bookie or like Bitcoin or some shit like that. Don't think I don't know the game. And you see an MLB game on, and it's just like, oh yeah, a 1:00 game. I'll bet that because I'm bored. Don't do that. Don't do that. That doesn't lead you to a good place at all. I used to sit at home, just fire off League of Legends DFS bets. If any of you know what the fuck that is, you know how bad that is. If you don't know what that is, you also know how bad that is. So, both sides of a coin are fucking covered there, right? I'll be waking up, betting fucking Chinese League of Legends overnight. The games would be on at 4 a.m. I'd be at the gym at 6 a.m., like looking at my phone, like, am I winning? Are you winning, son? So yeah, don't be doing that. Betting just because you want action. Bet because you have a read and you have a serious read or like knowledge on the game. Don't bet just for the fuck of it. So that's my 2 cents there. I found during the summer people get very wistful, a little nostalgic. The mind can wander, and they're like, I need to distract myself with something. First 5 over, baby, let's go.
Again, me personally, I feel like I've always read the early slate better than the late slate. I feel like there's always some fuckery on the late slate, especially you're looking at the 10 p.m. game. You could be sure, kind of like you've said in the past, if you just want to play the other side for no damn reason, that's the time to do it. Pick the late nights. Late night games go the other way. That seems obvious. You're probably on to something.
Yeah, the entire East Coast, here's a little free game for you. The entire East Coast chases their losses on the Dodgers or the Padres late at night. And it's almost always the Dodgers. Dodgers minus 1.5 got paid out a lot last year. This year,
not so much.
Yeah.
And especially daytime Dodgers. I know you're talking about nighttime Dodgers, but definitely a lot of East Coast hammers minus 300 Dodgers. They love it. And it's not good. It's never good.
Everybody's favorite team. You're in the hole. You don't want to go to bed on a loss. Oh, Tony, take me home, baby.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Am I allowed to make that joke? Can we make that joke yet? I don't know.
The betting percentage isn't high enough yet.
Not yet. Not enough handle.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. We had some great tips we covered here tonight. Game 3 of the finals. Hopefully, it's an excellent game. Even as someone who bet the Celtics, I'd like to see them win, but I'd also like to see a competitive game just for all the casual watchers out there. I know these NBA Finals, if it's like a 3-0 or like a sweep, it kind of sucks. I remember those LeBron Warrior Finals with Kevin Durant, where you just knew they were fighting a fucking uphill battle there. So maybe we'll see that. Maybe we don't. We'll know in a few hours, and you'll know by the time you see these clips. So I'm Ryan.
Randy.
All right, boys. Thank you. As always, like, comment, subscribe, do all that good shit. And we're out.
You got me feeling lucky. I'm putting everything on black.